Your mouth tastes of copper and dust and the cheap whiskey still burning your gut. Your hand will not stay still. You press it flat against your thigh and it trembles anyway. 12 feet away, a man you barely know is deciding whether you live, and he is drunk, and you are drunk, and neither of you has ever done this sober. There is no music. There is no wide, clean street baked white under the noon sun. There is a low, dark room that smells of spit and lamp oil and unwashed men, and someone laughing too loud in the corner, and the sudden scrape of a chair against the floor. Nobody counts to 3. Nobody steps back 10 paces. Nobody waits for you to be ready. The first shot comes before your fingers even close on the grip, and it goes wide, because almost every shot goes wide. And now the whole room is smoke and screaming and splinters, and you cannot see the man who wants you dead. This is the part the movies never show you. So forget the fast draw, forget the honor, forget everything that gentle white noon ever sold you. You already know the scene. You have watched it 100 times without ever choosing to. 2 men on an empty street. The town holds its breath. Shutters close. A dog trots away. The clock ticks toward 12. The 2 of them stand 50 feet apart, hands hovering over polished holsters, eyes locked, coats pushed back. One twitch, one blur of motion, one clean shot to the heart, and the loser folds into the dust, while the winner blows the smoke from his barrel and walks away untouched. It is a beautiful lie. It is one of the most successful lies ever told, and almost none of it ever happened. The quick-draw duel at high noon is not history. It is theater. It was invented by dime novelists selling nickel fantasies to bored men back east, then polished for 60 years by Hollywood, until the polish became the memory. The face-to-face duel, agreed in advance, fought by 2 willing men at a marked distance, was so rare across the entire American frontier that historians can count the real ones on their fingers. What actually killed men in the West was uglier, faster, and far more stupid than anything a screenwriter would dare to film. Because real violence has no choreography. Real violence is a drunk decision made in a single second and regretted for the rest of a very short life. If you want to keep seeing the past stripped of its makeup, the way it truly smelled and bled, subscribe and stay down here in the dirt with us. This is the history they were too afraid to show you. Let us start with how these fights truly began, because it was never a formal challenge. It began the way ugly things always begin, with too much whiskey and too little space. You are in the saloon because there is nowhere else to be. The West is boredom stitched to hardship, and the saloon is the only warm, loud-lit room for 40 miles. Feel the place around you. The floor is sticky with spilled beer and tobacco spit that men fire toward brass cans and mostly miss. The air is thick enough to lean on, layered with cigar smoke and lamp oil, and the sour reek of bodies that have not seen soap in weeks. Someone is playing the same 3 notes on an out-of-tune piano. Someone is coughing wet in the corner. A woman laughs a laugh that has no joy in it. The whole room sweats. You have been drinking a liquor that is closer to poison than pleasure, cut with tobacco and turpentine and God knows what, sold under names like tarantula juice and coffin varnish because everyone already understood what it did to a man. It has been hours. The cards have not been kind. Across the table, a man has been winning. You suspect he has been cheating. You may be wrong. It does not matter. The suspicion has grown teeth. He says something about your mother, or your luck, or the money you owe. You say something back. A chair scrapes. Somewhere, a man you have never met decides tonight is the night he proves he is not afraid of anyone. And in the time it takes to draw one breath, 2 men who woke up that morning with no intention of dying are reaching for iron. There was no code. There was no waiting. Nobody let the other man get set. The whole romantic idea of fairness, of letting your enemy draw first, of giving him a sporting chance, would have gotten you buried. The men who survived the West survived because they understood one filthy truth. The only advantage that mattered was surprise. You did not announce. You did not posture. If you had truly decided to kill a man, you shot him when he was not looking, and you shot him as many times as it took. Honor was a story told about the dead. It was never a rule the living obeyed. And here is a thing the legend gets exactly backwards. The famous cattle towns, the very places the movies fill with blazing pistols, were the places most likely to take your gun away at the door. Dodge City, Abilene, Tombstone, Wichita. They passed ordinances against carrying firearms inside the town limits. You rode in, and the first thing the law did was make you hand over your iron and hang it on a board behind the marshal or leave it with the livery. The whole point of a frontier town was to be a place where men could spend money and not be shot for it. The businessmen wanted your dollars, not your corpse in the road scaring off trade. So the truly lawless West, the West of constant gunplay, mostly existed on the trail and in the raw new camps that had no law yet. The moment a place got a marshal and a bank and a church, it wanted the guns gone. The gunfight was not the daily rhythm of the West. It was the exception that the West itself was desperate to stamp out. Most men who lived their whole lives on the frontier never once fired a weapon at another human being. They died of fever, of accidents, of horses, of cold, of the 1,000 quiet ways the land killed you without ceremony. The revolver killed far fewer men than the winter did, but no one sells a poster of dysentery. Now put the gun in your hand and feel how little you can trust it. This is the piece the fantasy erases most completely. In your palm is not the flawless machine of the films. It is a cap and ball revolver, or an early cartridge pistol, heavy and temperamental and half blind. To load it, you may have poured loose black powder into each chamber, pressed a lead ball on top, capped it, and prayed. Prayed the powder was dry, prayed the cap would spark, prayed the whole cylinder would not go up at once in your hand. Black powder does not fire clean. It fouls, it cakes, it draws damp out of the air and turns to paste. A gun that fired perfectly last week might click dead tonight because it rained on Tuesday. Chambers misfired constantly. A man would aim, squeeze, and hear nothing but a flat, useless snap while his enemy was still very much alive and now very much aware. And even when it fired badly. The barrels were short, the sights were crude or absent. The recoil bucked the muzzle skyward. These were not precision instruments built for a marksman on a range. They were close-range tools built to be waved at a man and emptied in a panic. The idea of a gunfighter calmly placing one perfect round through a heart at 50 paces is an insult to how these weapons actually behaved. And then there is the sound. Nobody warns you about the sound. A black powder pistol going off in a closed wooden room is not a crack. It is a blow to the whole body. It slaps the air out of your chest. It leaves your ears ringing with a high, thin whine that swallows every other noise, so that the screaming and the shouting come to you as if from underwater. Men walked away from gunfights half-deaf for hours. Some walked away half-deaf forever. The flash blinds you in a dark room. The smoke chokes you. The burnt powder coats your tongue with a taste like sucking a nail. Every sense you own is assaulted at once, and in the middle of that assault you are supposed to aim. You do not aim. Almost no one aims. You point, and you flinch, and you pull, and you hope. So the men did not fight at 50 paces. They fought close, horribly close. Real gunfights happened at distances that would make you sick. Not the length of a street, the length of a card table. 2 men, 3 men, 4 men, firing at each other from 6 feet, from 10 feet, sometimes near enough to grab a wrist, close enough to smell the fear on the other man, close enough that the muzzle flash could set his shirt smoking. And still they missed. God, how they missed. Here is the number the movies could never survive. In many documented gunfights, the men involved fired again and again and hit almost nothing. Hands shake when death is in the room. The heart hammers so hard the whole arm jumps. The black powder throws up a wall of gray smoke after the first shot, and now nobody can see anyone, and men are firing blind into a fog at shapes and sounds and the memory of where a body used to be. Shots went into ceilings. Shots went into floors. Shots went into walls, into bottles, into horses tied outside, into the poor souls who had come only to drink. The bystander was the most common casualty of the Old West gunfight. Not the two fools who started it, the stranger at the bar, the woman upstairs, the old man asleep against the far wall who caught a stray round through a plank he thought was solid. The West did not aim well. It simply threw lead into crowded rooms and let chance sort the dying. If this reality hits harder than any movie ever did, leave a like. It tells me to keep digging where the cameras never pointed. And there was a clock running the whole time, though nobody sold you that either. A revolver held 6 shots, and when they were gone, they were gone. There is no fast reload in a real fight. You do not flip a cylinder open and slap in fresh rounds in a heartbeat. With a cap and ball gun, reloading was a slow, careful ritual of powder and ball and cap, a thing you did at a table, not in a storm of smoke with a man trying to kill you. So the fight was short by necessity. A handful of wild shots, and then 2 men were standing there with empty iron, and the fight became fists, or bottles, or knives, or a scramble out the door. Many a Western killing ended not with a marksman's bullet, but with 2 panicked men beating each other with the guns that had already failed them. If you take one thing from this, take this. Stay with me, because what happened after the shooting was worse than the shooting, and almost nobody talks about it. The bullet was rarely the thing that killed you. The weight was. Think about where these fights truly landed their shots. Not the tidy heart, the gut, the leg, the shoulder, the jaw. Wounds that did not kill a man cleanly but opened him up and let the world in. The bullets were soft lead, wide and slow, and they did not punch neat holes. They flattened and tumbled and tore. They dragged filth into the body with them, scraps of dirty shirt, grit, splinters, the sweat and grime of an unwashed man. And in a world with no antiseptic, no antibiotics, no clean water, and no understanding of infection, a wound to the belly was a death sentence written in slow motion. The man shot in the stomach did not die in the street with a good last line. He was carried to a back room. He lay on a stained mattress for 3 days, or 5, or 9, while his gut turned septic and his skin went gray, and the smell of him filled the house. Gangrene crept up a wounded leg 1 black inch at a time. Fever cooked him from the inside. He begged for water he could not keep down. He begged for it to end. You do not hear him in the films. In the films, the man clutches his chest, says one clever thing, and is gone before he hits the floor. Real dying men are not clever. They are loud. They weep and they curse and they call for their mothers. Grown killers with iron on their hips, crying for a woman 30 years dead. The room fills with the stink of a body failing. Flies find the wound in summer. The people caring for him stop being able to look at him. And still it goes on and on. Death in the West took its time because it had no reason to hurry. And then came the doctor, who was often no doctor at all. A barber, a drunk, a man with a saw and a bottle and a set of tools he did not clean between patients. He probed the wound with an unwashed finger to find the ball, and that finger carried more death than the bullet ever did. He cut, he sawed, he cauterized. He worked in a world that had never heard of germs, and half of what he did only opened the door wider to the rot. The West did not offer clean deaths. It offered slow ones. A gunshot was not a period at the end of a sentence. It was the beginning of a long and filthy paragraph. So ask yourself which one would have taken you first, the bullet or the 9 days after it. Tell me in the comments what you think would have broken you. And even the man who won rarely walked away untouched. The winner of a real close-range fight often took a ball of his own, in the arm, the side, the hand. He staggered out bleeding, ears ringing, shirt smoking, having killed a man he would see every night for the rest of his life. There was no clean victory. There was only the one who bled less. He did not blow smoke off his barrel and grin. He shook, he vomited. He drank until the shaking stopped, and then he waited to learn whether his own wound would rot. Now go back to the legends, because they need burying too. The famous gunfighters, the names carved into 1,000 posters, were not the noble duelists of the screen. They were killers who understood the value of a bad angle. The most feared men of the frontier built their reputations not on facing enemies fairly, but on catching them unready. From behind, from ambush, from across a dark room before the other man knew the fight had even begun. Men were shot in the back stepping out of doorways. Men were shot sitting down mid-sentence, holding cards. One of the most famous killings of the entire era was a man taking a bullet to the back of the head while playing poker, never seeing the hand that did it, folding forward onto the table he had been winning at. That was not a rare disgrace. That was the shape of it. That was normal. The fast draw, timed to the fraction of a second. The twirl, the fanning of the hammer with a flat palm. The notches filed into the grip to count the dead. Invented. All of it. Fanning a revolver throws your aim to the wind, and was near useless in a real fight. No serious man notched his gun like a schoolboy scoring a game. The theatrics were sold to audiences who wanted their killers glamorous. The real killers wanted only to walk away, and they did whatever ugly, quiet thing it took to manage it. Even the great showdowns you think you know were nothing like the tale. The most famous gunfight in American memory lasted about 30 seconds and was fought at a distance you could cross in 3 steps, in a cramped lot between buildings, close enough to touch, confused and smoke-choked and over, almost before it began. No slow walk, no locked eyes at 50 feet, just a knot of frightened armed men in a tight space, and 30 seconds of chaos, and bodies in the dirt. So where did the beautiful lie come from? It came from paper. While the real West was busy dying of infection in back rooms, men back east were getting rich, selling it as a fairy tale. The dime novels churned out hundreds of stories with the same clean hero, the same fair duel, the same untouchable marksman, printed cheap and read by the million. Living gunmen read these stories about themselves and learned to play the part, because the legend paid better than the truth. Some of them toured in stage shows, acting out duels that never happened for crowds who wanted to believe. By the time the cameras arrived, the lie was already older than most of the audience. Hollywood did not invent the myth, it only inherited it and made it move. We remember the costume, we forgot the corpse. And look at who was actually doing the killing. Not weathered old masters with a lifetime of duels behind them. Boys. Most of these men were in their teens and 20s, half-formed, drunk, poor, and desperate to be feared, because being feared was the only power a nobody could seize. They killed young and they died young. A reputation as a dangerous man was a death sentence, because it meant every other frightened boy in every other saloon wanted to be the one who brought you down. The gunfighter did not retire to a rocking chair. He was shot in the back by someone hungrier, in a town he was only passing through, over nothing at all. Courage in the West came in a bottle and left through a wound. Take away the whiskey and most of these fights never happen. The drink built the anger, drowned the fear, and steadied nothing. It put the gun in the hand, and then made sure the hand could not shoot straight. The Old West did not run on bravery. It ran on liquor and pride and the terrible boredom of young men with weapons and nothing to lose. So stand once more where we began. The low room, the bad whiskey, the trembling hand you cannot command. There is no orchestra swelling, there is no clean noon light. There is only smoke and shouting and the flat crack of a misfire, the sweet copper smell of blood already on the boards, a man face down across the cards, and the slow understanding that nothing here was brave, and nothing here was fair, and nothing here will be remembered the way it truly was. The men of the West did not duel. They ambushed and panicked and missed and died of infection in back rooms that smelled of rot. Their guns jammed. Their aim failed. Their courage was mostly whiskey, and their honor was a costume sewn long after they were in the ground, by men who never smelled the powder and never watched a friend take 9 days to die from a hole the size of a thumb. The truth of the gunfight is not a clock ticking toward high noon. It is a dark room, a shaking hand, and a lead ball too soft and too slow to do anything cleanly. That is what it actually looked like. That is what they were too polite to show you. And once you have seen it, the noon duel never looks quite so beautiful again. If you want to step into another world that history quietly scrubbed clean for you, there is more of it waiting on this channel. Come see what else they buried.